Justin, it's really interesting that you decided to make this into a radio play instead of another film. As you can tell, we like podcasts and radio plays. I listen to them
Sure.
constantly, and it's convenient. I don't need to sit down and
You
have
can be
Yeah.
time. I can be
hands-free.
commuting. Yeah, hands free.
Yeah, you can listen to it in the car or wherever, and that's kind of why I decided that it can be that it will be a series now, because we can spread it out and we can make it so people can have more opportunities to listen to a lot rather than one chunk of like an hour long thing. So
That's so awesome. I'm so excited and I really can't contain it. I want to know everything about it. And actually, I'm going to divert really quickly to ask a question. You're working in an era of the Harry Potter world that obviously we aren't hugely exposed to.
yeah.
I'm assuming there are going to be characters that maybe aren't so huge that we're going to see popping up. Is that a fair assumption?
Um, we are going to see the big players, and the
Mm-hmm.
story is going to still focus on Severus Snape and the Marauders, but instead of Snape and the Marauders' original point of Snape and the Marauders was from Snape's point of view,
Mm-hmm.
which is interesting because some people who say like, was he actually that powerful against the Marauders? Or yeah, he could totally do that. I was like, you're both right because Snape's telling the story, because so he
Yeah.
might be exaggerating. It's up to you. Anyways, that's not going to be the case anymore. It's going to be Snape's perspective and the Marauders' perspective. Um, and actually, the Marauders get a little splintered, so it'll be James' perspective and Sirius Black's perspective. Um, and their experiences, Snape going to the Death Eaters for the first time, and the Marauders eventually joining the Order of the Phoenix, they meet new people, and those
Yeah.
new people are all listed in the Harry Potter Wiki's Marauder era characters. So I looked at a bunch of them. I know that Regulus Black was very famous in fan fiction circles. Um, True. I mean,
He
I didn't
is.
read any fan fiction for Snape and the Marauders, but I was aware of a couple of little things. So that's why in Snape and the Marauders, there's Wolfstar that's very carefully thrown in there, and
I I
Regulus Black.
I actually didn't notice the Wolf Star until this morning. I went to rewatch it, and I
Yeah,
watched it with the cast's reactions when you guys all sat down to watch it for the first time. And when
yeah,
they pointed out, I'm like, "Oh my god, there totally is Wolf Star."
yeah. That was on purpose, but we meant to be very subtle.
It was very subtle. I missed it.
Good. But anyways, because those two things in fandom are so big, that's why they were just mentioned a little bit. But now we really go into it, and now we meet Regulus, and we meet several Order of the Phoenix members, and we meet Alistair Moody before he's called Mad Eye, and the Longbottom's parents, and a bunch of other very small characters. I didn't realize this, but when I was looking, Molly Weasley, before she was married to Arthur, well, it doesn't matter if she was married or not. I think by this time she was married. But anyways, she has two twin brothers.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know that. And they were, I found out at least either rumors or vague information that they might have been kind of an influence on the Weasley twins.
Yeah.
So that was like, oh, great. I have their personalities already. Cool. So I have to build the personalities of these characters as well based on very, very little information.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're definitely going to see a lot of minor characters.
I
That's awesome.
I think that's one of the reasons people love hearing about the Marauders era so much is because we don't have a lot of information, and
Yeah.
it lets fans have that scope when they do their fan works and everything, because we don't know what really happened. We've got some vague ideas, some big things, like we know about Sirius almost killing Snape and James saving him. We know
Hmm.
about the fight, obviously. I know you don't want to give too much of the plot away, but will we be seeing more of Lily and Severus? Or are they completely
Together?
talking and stuff? Or are they completely separated at this point now, like as friends? Because at the end she goes, "I hope to see you again," and all that.
That line was meant to be tragic because she never sees him again.
Okay, yeah, because that's the feeling I got in the movie. But
My
now
heart.
I'm
Right.
That's the feeling I go in the mood. But now there's a sequel. I'm like, oh, is he going to stick to it or is he going to?
They definitely feel each other's influence,
Yeah.
but and they have near encounters, but they never actually see each other again.
Oh, that is heartbreakingly tragic, isn't it?
Yes.
Ooh.
I'm just running with what JK already does, so
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
So, I have a really interesting question for you, and I was almost quite hesitant to ask it, but I thought I'll throw you on the spot anyways.
Sure.
As it was just touched on, we don't know a huge amount of the Marauders era. It's very popular with the fans. People make up theories all the time, and people have got their own little headcanons.
Right.
Are you in any way intimidated by the fans and what they might say?
Have you read some of the comments on Snape the Marauders video?
Oh no, I have seen a few comments, yes.
Yeah, well, they have their opinions, and that's not changing mine.
Excellent.
A lot of when people go back and forth saying Snape was a really horrible person, how can you portray the Marauders? They're so OC, out of character. And other people saying the Marauders were perfect, Snape was perfect. I'm like, well, that's really up to interpretation, guys, because we only know about 15 minutes of their lives. And some people will say, James matured by his 7th year. And I'm like, yeah, then why did Remus quickly mention that he still hexed Snape whenever any chance he got and did not tell Lily about it? That does not mean he's totally grown up. And basically, the main complaint I get is that James would never act that way, and would never be a bully once he grew up. And I'm like, that's your opinion. You're wrong, but it is your opinion.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean I think James is a bad person. He's not. He's a very good person who had serious issues with being a bully, not just to Snape, but to kids. Lily kind of helped with that. And by the way, I always thought it was interesting that they were both made head boy and head girl. And I was like, that's probably Dumbledore's doing. He probably did that on purpose because he saw them being cute. And
Dumbledore matchmaking.
And wanted to grow up. Yeah. I mean, he's manipulative like that.
Yeah.
So, anyways, I'm not worried about what they think because my job was to make an accurate portrayal of these characters as I could, even if it makes them ugly. And human beings are not perfect people, and I don't care if you grow up from 15 to 17 and you're a better person. I don't know. It's the actual whole premise of the Wizarding War series is to see James mature into that good person, and it's through more trials and pain. Because the way I saw it is that if he eventually did become such a good person, he must have dealt with some humbling experiences. And when I read in the Potter's biography that James's parents died of dragonpox, I was like, oh, that's perfect. That is a huge moment where he can feel humbled again. Like I felt like him getting beat up by Snape was an artificial beginning to his maturity, because that just means you got beat up by your own bully victim. But hearing that his parents might die soon, I think that kickstarts him into maturity in ways that a lot of things couldn't. And then we see his quest over time, both through mistakes he makes and triumphs he has throughout the Wizarding War series, of how he grows into a responsible young man. Wow. So no, I'm not worried about what fans think, because I have a very specific storyline, and if he were perfect, then there would be no conflict in the story, and that's not entertaining at all.
Yeah, and it's awesome. And you can't please everyone anyways.
No, definitely not.
And just let it be known that Justin totally agrees with me that Dumbledore is shady and he's out meddling. He's meddling, so points to me.
Hey, it's like he's manipulative, he's shady, but he saved the whole world, so you can't complain too much.
I feel like he gets a free pass because he kind of stepped in and did some of the stuff that other people don't want to do. I feel like he gets that.
Yeah.
The greater good. That's how I always feel about Dumbledore.
Yeah, true. And actually, as a film, that was a really good and really interesting perspective to take. I'm just floored by the fact that you were able to sit there and create all this and then film it, and you made it. It must be surreal sometimes, isn't it, when you look back and go, wow, I made this and people watch it and love it, and
Especially how many people watch it. Think you've got a lot of views. I looked at it this morning and forgotten the number already.
Greater Good's like 6.2 million, and Severus Snape and the Marauders is like 2.2.
Yep, 2.2, yep.
are you ever standing there like buttering some toast and then you go, I can't believe I'm buttering toast right now. Look at what I've done.
Wait,
I don't know how I mean, like, I was so surprised that Greater Good got so much attention. Like, my goal for it was 200,000 views. It hit that in like a week and then just kept going. It hit 1 million views in a month. And I'm like, what is happening? And I actually picked Greater Good as my first fan film because, one, I wanted to keep making shorts. I wasn't ready to make a feature, but two, I wanted to make sure people would actually see it. Creating original content and putting it into film festivals is a challenging ordeal, and it's just put in the labyrinth of thousands and thousands. But not everyone does fan films, and there were very few Harry Potter fan films by the time I realized that I wanted to make it. So I was like, well, kind of filling in a little bit of a vacuum there. There was plenty of fan fiction, but not filming.
yeah, I've noticed that because I really enjoyed fan films, and I think I've found 4 or 5 others that are good quality. Like, there's a few people who do it in like their living room, and that's cute, but
Right.
there's a few that have like such a huge production value that you put into it.
Right.
And with that, is that just putting all that production value into it? Is that, I'm trying to think how to word this right? Is it you just doing, obviously because you're putting your name on it, or is there a lot of it that's just you're a fan and that's just how it's going to be because it's something you love as well? Or is it a reputation thing? If that makes sense. That sounds horrible.
I think what you're trying to say is, am I making sure that these Harry Potter fan films are really good because I love Harry Potter, or because I want to make sure I'm a good filmmaker?
That, yes.
Both. It's both. So I wanted to show that I'm a good filmmaker, but I said, well, what's a fandom or franchise that I really love? And what is a franchise that I love that is also not oversaturated? Like Star Trek and Star Wars are oversaturated with fan films.
Yeah.
But Harry Potter wasn't.
No.
And it was Harry Potter production design wise was like, I just need to find costumes, wands, and like for Greater Good it was a beachside. For Snape and the Marauders, it was only 2 locations, and you can get away with them looking like a wizard's place without having to do much to it.
No.
Unlike a Star Trek, where you have to build a bridge or something.
Yeah. That's actually something I really liked about it was with Severus Snape and the Marauders. It was pretty much almost entirely in the forest or the pub, and having that forest, like, I found it very atmospheric. With it, I've seen a bit of the behind the scenes stuff. So, did you like pick the exact night that you thought would give the best atmosphere, or was it just luck of the draw?
Were you talking about the forest or the pub?
Forest, sorry.
Oh, forest. I mean, we went at night. So, unfortunately, we picked the night or the weekends where it decided to rain for the first time in LA in a few years.
Oh, no.
And it was downpour rain. It was not like we can work through this trickle. It was production was shut down for about 6 hours on the last day. And we were already behind, so I was in a panic. But I don't know. We just shot at night, and we had fog machines. So
fog machines make everything
man.
better.
Well, that's what you do. It just creates depth and dimension in the picture. If you don't have it, it's not like you'll notice, but you will notice if you got some really cool like fog or smoke or just a little bit of mist that gives things dimension. That's the DP, John Hafner, who did an amazing job on the film.
Yeah. When you went into it, did you know exactly how much special effects it was going to require? Because there's a lot in Severus Snape and the Marauders.
There are a lot, yeah. When I finished storyboarding it came out to about 230 visual effects shots. And of course, some of them were just taking out tracking lights. And then others were heavy duties. But Some shots you'll never notice, other shots you'll definitely notice. And some shots, like, because they're half a second long, are not nearly as bad as the Fiendfire shot, which took about 6 months to make.
Yeah, I think you have a video on that special effects shot. It's huge.
Yeah, it was very big. It took a long time, but I knew an artist who could do it, so I was like, cool, I know I can do this now. But then again, like it's a lot of shots, but some of them are like you can bang out like 2 or 3 in a day, versus like that figure 8 shot where all 4 Marauders are fighting Snape, which was a 27-second shot. That takes months to make.
Yeah. And you obviously didn't have a hand in that because you don't do the special effects yourself.
Correct.
Yeah,
I hired 4 people on this. Yeah.
And were they local to your area in California, or were they sent away?
Only one was local. A friend of mine who worked on Greater Good, she just volunteered her services. Came on for Snape and the Marauders as well. She's in London. The guy who did the Fiendfire shot, he is in Puerto Rico. And then I hired some extra shots from people in different countries that I don't remember, just because we had to speed up the process to meet the release date. But yeah, only one person local. And he was the visual effects supervisor, so he made sure that all the shots, all the elements that we used were shared across the board, so nothing looks too different.
That's really cool. So, with going now into Wizarding Wars quickly again, which is what we're moving on to. So sound design and all that, you're in a way leaving up to the director and his team. It's a her, isn't it?
No, once it gets to post production, I get back in because that's that's what I do. I'm an editor, so I'm gonna want to pace out the action and conversation out the way I want to, and she'll work with me. She's gonna be right alongside me. But I have the guy who did sound effect and design for Snape and the Marauders is going to do the same for Wizarding War. And he's got a challenge in front of him because because it's sound and not picture anymore, I get to be much more imaginative and do lots of different creative things, some of which Fantastic Beasts stole, so I had to rewrite it.
Don't you hate it when they do that?
I know. The original creator of her own material, how dare she?
Yeah. It's just not fair.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jess, do you have a question?
I do, except it's, unfortunately, Mel is great with the asking about production and how things are created. I'm just a nerd. I'm going to be real. I'm going to assume everybody who is working on these projects with you must be a huge Harry Potter fan.
I mean,
or do you have anybody who is not aware of Harry Potter who is coming on?
It's never a requirement for actors or crew as long as they're passionate about that project. Mm-hmm. Because if a person reads a script not knowing anything about it and says, "I got to do this," you're going to get a better performance than a Harry Potter fan who is not as good of an actor. So
it can make that difference.
Clayton Nimro, who played Voldemort, no idea about the franchise.
Oh, really?
I mean, he knows about it. He is. British,
yeah.
He didn't really care.
Wasn't into it.
Wasn't into it. He liked the monologue I wrote for him, and he was actually unhappy that what I wrote for him was just for his audition. His actual lines were far fewer, so I gave him a little extra money, but he was still like, I understand what's going on. Plus, it's fun to be in makeup. But his performance of Voldemort was second to none compared to everyone else that auditioned for him. Yeah. And I was like, I don't care if you think Voldemort is Darth Vader, just read those lines.
It's like Michael Gambon, who played Dumbledore, Jess, the second Dumbledore. He never read Harry Potter.
Right. And I wasn't a fan of his performance until Order of the Phoenix. But once he got it, which isn't necessarily his fault. I hated the direction of Goblet of Fire. Didn't mind the story adaptation, but I hated how the director made everyone just completely out of character.
Yeah.
But he eventually got it, and that's important to me. Is you got to understand this role. If I find someone who wants to play Regulus Black because he understands his plight in life, less so than he's like, oh my God, Regulus Black is so cool, then I'm going to hire that guy.
That's so exciting.
Yeah.
Actually,
I think that's half the reason why the film gets complimented on its casting. They all love Harry Potter except Voldemort, but they were actors first.
Yeah.
They dig into James. They dig into Remus. They're like, who are these people? How do I want to portray them? Not how do the fans think they want to see them. How do I want to portray them?
Yeah.
What's the most important thing?
No. I'm a huge, huge, huge fan of Sirius Black. So
she'll never let it go.
I'll never let it go. Anybody who writes fan fiction about him, does anything with him, I'm very critical of. And I actually really enjoyed Kevin's performance of it. I was with him. I was like, yeah, that's a good Sirius, even when he sounds like a pirate.
That's the thing. Oh, I don't know if you know this, but that's one of Kevin's gigs, is he's a professional pirate.
What?
Yes. I'm sorry, I've got to fly to California and stalk this guy. That's like my dream job.
Oh dear. Oh dear. Okay, well maybe don't stalk him, but I encourage you to send fan mail and draw him a pirate picture or something. That'll be
and he would love that. You know, he also choreographed the fighting in Severus Snape and the Marauders.
Wow.
Yeah, I heard that.
And he purposely gave Sirius a very swashbuckling style. So keep an eye on it, especially the figure 8 shot, the way he flourishes his wand. He was very much doing that on purpose.
Yeah, I think it might have been it was an interview you guys did on another podcast that I listened to, and he was saying how when they were all researching their characters and how they wanted to play them, he found out that JK thought that Gary Oldman was spot on, and he's like, so I'm just going to play it like Gary Oldman, except my fighting, because I like my fighting better.
Well, when he told me that, I was like, okay, play it how Gary Oldman would play it if he were a free spirit who hadn't been in jail for 12 years.
Yeah.
You can't play the same character.
Yeah.
You can play it the way Gary Oldman would think to play it, which means you got to dig into who Gary Oldman is. So now you're digging into 2 characters, buddy. But I was just like, remember, Sirius Black is not screwed up because of 12 years of prison and a lust for vengeance.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of his childlike characteristics came back in Order of the Phoenix, but, you know, he was really chill, fun, happy, I don't care about anything dude back then, so you got to think about that. That actually became part of his arc. Like, his biggest fear in Severus Snape and the Marauders is that the band breaks up, and that everyone gets separated. And that's why he keeps saying over and over again, we'll be fine as long as we're together. No one will mess with us as long as we're together. And then we see the Marauders literally get separated, and he looks around and sees everyone separated, and you see his face. He's terrified because what he's scared of most is happening.
Yeah.
Would it be presumptuous for me to say we're going to see a bit of that in Wizarding Wars? Because there is a lot of fan talk that they were somewhat separated by the end, and that's how, when obviously Peter betrayed them, how quickly Remus was able to believe, oh yeah, Sirius did it.
I have to read the books again to see what I thought about Remus coming to terms with Sirius being a murderer. But my story is about how their separation is inevitable, but they do come back together later. Because they all become members of the Orders of the Phoenix, of the Order of the Phoenix. But I wasn't just going to have them lick their wounds and be like, all right, let's go to the Order. It's more like, no, they screwed up and they don't know what to think of themselves for a while.
Yeah.
And Sirius tries and fails to get the band back together, and we see how he deals with that. And we see how he mourns the loss of his friends, can't be around them anymore, how he kind of gets his life on track, if he does at all, and how the band eventually does come back together, and what he learns from it, if anything.
And we've got Garrett, who played James. I actually also really enjoyed that performance. So I don't want you to give too much away, but so is his story going to be more his maturity, becoming more of that good person, and obviously
he's much more about. His is a story of redemption. He really messed up, and he's not done understanding the consequences of messing up. It takes him time for him to get to that point. And his is really a story about how he matures into a responsible adult. That's really the theme of the whole series is how these characters mature into responsible adults. And for James, it's going to be focusing more on his family before events eventually lead him to the Order of the Phoenix, and then more events eventually lead him to wanting to be part of the Order of the Phoenix.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is going to be a huge story, and I'm excited to see it all unfold when you guys start to release it. Writing this must be absolutely crazy sometimes. Do you find that it's easy? Do you find that things flow, or have you ever been struggling? Have you ever been stuck with any particular points?
Well, I'm not actually done writing it yet. I have the outline of all 12 episodes, so I know how the story begins and ends.
Yeah.
But it's a slow process writing out the dialogue for all the characters, and trying to fit in everybody's arc.
Yeah.
Because I even decided to give Bellatrix Lestrange an arc, even though it's small and it's just a few scenes spread out across the series. But I was like, well, if she's going to be there, she's got to have something to do.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so and if the Longbottoms are there, they have to have something to do. And James, Snape, and all the Marauders, they have to have arcs. Lily really has to have an arc because her role was extremely important in Snape and the Marauders, but extremely short.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, we got to see more of her.
Yeah,
how does she join the Order of the Phoenix? I actually gave her a profession that she was going to get herself into after school, and we're going to see how that plays into the episodes. So now that I have all these characters, including a completely original one, they all have to have arcs, and I have to make sure that I fulfill those arcs. And I know the basics of them, but writing it out is easier than thinking you've got it.
And, it's so true what you just said, fitting it all into dialogue. You can't just rely on writing other bits and pieces for people to see. And it's not like a film, so they're not watching it. Wow, it's quite a big job. And I think I speak for everybody when I say we're all so excited. And we totally trust in you and have faith in you, and you deserve lots of coffee.
I have a quick question, actually, Jess. You're going to like this. So Jess and I do historical reenactment.
Oh, we do.
And
It's recreation.
Recreation. And Jess has this whole thing with Bellatrix's outfit in
Oh,
movies. So her sleeves are tied to the dress. And historically, you're meant to wear a chemise. And Jess hates the fact that this woman does not have an underdress. In your radio play, do you envision her wearing an underdress?
I have no idea.
I would frankly, I would actually just settle.
I would something else.
You know what? I'm just going to imagine her in the whole radio play wearing something practical. You know what? That's how it's going to be. It's going to be how I feel.
Honestly, it's fine. Like
See?
See, that's the thing. I get to be more imaginative with the radio play, but that means you get to see these characters however you want.
Yeah.
Like that's like half the battle is like, do these characters look like the characters?
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I have to find a character who looks like the character and is a good actor.
And that's hard.
It was a search for sure.
Yeah. And I think that was one of the trials of the actual Harry Potter franchise with all these kid actors. They need to find kid actors who could vaguely act and looked like the characters they were portraying because they're so vividly described. And at the same time, I think in a way you could be lucky that a lot of the Marauders era people, we don't know exactly what they looked like then. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing is when people are saying, who are you going to cast as Regulus? I'm like, it really depends on what he sounds like. Like, oh, he's got to have black hair. I'm like, he can be a blonde woman. And if he sounds like a man and he sounds like Regulus, that's all that matters. By the way, a lot of women voice actors play boys.
Oh, yeah. Bart Simpson.
Okay. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So like that, it sounds like a joke, but I'm like, nah, you don't know.
Anything could happen. And in a way, that must be freeing that you can do that. It's just about their voice now. It doesn't matter what they look like or how they act physically.
Right. Exactly. Like when I was writing out this original character, who's a very big part of the whole story.
Oh, I'm excited. I have to know.
Patience.
Garrett and I, Garrett was Garrett was a co-story creator. He helped me figure a lot of this out. And it's funny, we fight on how much I torture James. He's like, you can't do too much torture to him. I'm like, dude, he needs to learn. All right, I don't know anybody who goes from a 15-year-old jerk to a 21-year-old perfect person. Like, he had to go through some. And he's like, okay, but can it be this much? I'm like, all right, maybe not that much. Anyway,
negotiation.
Right. The new character I'm creating. I wrote what he looks like, what he is, the color of his eyes, what kind of clothes he wears. These are things we'll never see. And what's really important, as I was writing, I wrote in like a little line of badassery that he can have, and I'm like, wait, no one's going to see that. Shoot, okay. And I had to rewrite something else that sounds cool instead of looks cool. But like the character I'm creating, we created him from scratch. We figured out his name, what it means, why it's important, which is what JK does all the time. So we wanted to make sure that we didn't just give this guy any old name. Everything that we could envision about this guy, we wrote down so we could fully understand him and where he fits into the world without breaking canon.
Yeah.
We're not going to break any canon.
And that is difficult, and a lot of people struggle with that. So the cast, so Mick, Garrett, Kevin, Paul, and the guy who plays Peter, Zach. So have they all been big influences and helpers in creating both Severus Snape and the Marauders and now Wizarding Wars?
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah. Do you find that sometimes when you're writing the character, you might alter a little bit to also suit the actor, or is it just completely all on the character?
It is a mix of both, because the best way to get a great performance out of an actor is to let them do their job. Mm-hmm. So if they come in and audition and they impress you, they already know what the character should be, and they've taken their interpretation and they've impressed me. So either we're on the same wavelength or they thought of something I didn't think of before. So for Garrett, he understood the character exactly the way I did. For Mick, he understood the character the way I did. For Zach, he gave him more humor. A lot of Peter's humor in the film was seeing that humor being applied in his auditions, callbacks, and rehearsals.
Mm-hmm. He's...
Go ahead.
Sorry, continue. No.
No, he just understood that Peter needed to be likable, and he was transitioning to showing signs of being a villain. And I was like, I don't want them to hate you the whole time, because this is supposedly before Voldemort influenced you.
Yeah.
But we need to see signs of that fear.
Yeah.
And when I actually, you guys might already know this, but the first 2 minutes of the film, when the Marauders are talking, is totally improv.
Yeah, I did know that, and it's really cute. I liked it.
Yeah, that came out of their callbacks, because I gave them the lines, but I said feel free to ad-lib here and there, and what I intended to be 10 minutes turned into half an hour. And I was like, I have to let them just go, because that's how I'm going to sell these Marauders, is these charming kids who are just having so much fun being boys talking about girls. I'm like, this is going to sell them.
So when you cast them all, did you film them together just to check they all clicked? Was that part of... Yeah, so if they didn't... That
was the first callback, is I just had them all sit down at my table and go through the lines, start talking. I gave them exercises like, okay, now we're in a library, talk like you would in a library, or other things, just to see how they'd react. And they're all professionals. They know exactly what they're doing. So the chemistry was like evident in 5 minutes. Even Zach showed up late and looked timid on his face when he was coming in. I was like, I have my cast.
Was there a concern, though, obviously, because they'd all auditioned separately, and you thought these 4 guys are the 4 guys to the Marauders, I'll bring them together. Was there a concern, they're going to be so flat together, they're not going to work? Was that ever a worry, or did you just know?
I knew.
You just knew.
The chemistry was just so on. And I was like, these guys... I even had another James come in, and his chemistry did not click, period. Yeah. He was even good at ad-libbing, but his ad-libbing was not jibing with the other 3.
Yeah.
And I was like, the other guy just clicks.
Yeah.
He clicks with everybody. He's both a leader and a close friend. He knew how to get in Remus's face. Remus knew how to get back, make James look a little intimidated. They both just knew. They all knew how to interact with each other like they'd been friends for years.
And they clicked really well with Mick, who did Severus as well. I thought
They did.
all just... It was so perfect.
Oh, good. Well, the point of James and Snape was to cast them as they don't click.
Yeah.
And Mick doesn't really ad-lib as well. He was straight on the point of the lines.
Yeah.
And that was good because I didn't see them I didn't see those two characters ad-libbing their way out. Like, I saw Snape only being clever and smarmy on certain occasions, and I honestly, as a teenager, didn't see him that way. I saw him as a teenager as extremely bitter. Just bitter. No sense of humor at all. Because he was still reeling over his mistakes and the fact that he was about to join a murdering club of genocide. So their acting styles complemented each other because their chemistry didn't really exist. I mean, they're really good friends. They hang out all the time. Yeah. They're even working on a play together. But
sorry, what I should have said with click, I meant it melded well. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
They definitely all played off each other very well.
Right.
Yeah.
And the characters. Right.
I just want to backtrack for 1 second, if you don't mind. So, obviously, knowing about Peter and his storyline, surely that's going to come into the Wizarding Wars, I'm assuming.
Well, he's one of my favorites to write right now.
Yeah, I was going to ask, like, who are your favorite characters to write, but I was just going to say that will be an amazing story, and if I sat down right now and started writing about it, I'd end up writing a novel. So I can only imagine how you're going to put all of that into dialogue. It must be exciting. You must have a lot of ideas.
I do. Peter has a very important part, and it was a lot of fun. And writing him in the most recent episode, I get into. This is fun trying to tell you this without spoiling.
Okay.
I have him be put into a situation that both cements his total fear in Voldemort and makes him look like a hero at the same time.
Wow.
Yeah. I had to make up for the fact that everyone witnessed his betrayal at the end of Snape and the Marauders, and kind of his quest is to get on everyone's good side again.
Yeah, I was
and there's a moment where that happens, and he gets on everyone's good side in one single extremely dramatic moment, and at the same time, he's losing his mind out of fear.
Yeah.
I was going to ask about that because in one of your videos you said it's going to pretty much start with Remus and Sirius arriving at St. Mungo's. And
That's right.
I was thinking, how's Peter going to be able to show his face again to them after that?
You mean because he's bleeding out?
No. How Peter's going to show his face again? Sorry, not Remus.
Yeah, not Remus. He works on it. He's very adamant to work on it because I always saw him as not only he sees these people as really good friends, but he sees them as the only thing that keeps him secure.
Yeah.
You notice that his reaction to everyone being separated was betrayal because he just wanted to. He's attracted to the strongest thing in the room, and he gets very. And once all those strong people that he was keeping himself safe with are now down for the count, the only thing he can think of is to try and play to the strongest person in the room, which at the moment was Snape.
I love that scene so much. Just the look on Snape's face as he's trying to talk his way out of it.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, I'm so excited now. Like, I'm so pumped. I absolutely can't wait to experience this. But yeah, you were saying just really briefly, he's one of your favorite characters to write. Who else are you really enjoying writing?
I'm really enjoying writing James.
Mm-hmm. That's because you like to torture him. Yep, okay.
Yeah, he's out of the torture phase now. He had like the first 3 episodes were really hard on him, but that's because he had to find out his parents had dragonpox.
Yeah.
So I don't know anybody who wouldn't be horribly affected by that, no matter if you're a really nice guy or not. So James is out of the woods, and he's rebuilding himself. He's still unsure of himself, but in the next episode, he's going to get his confidence back. So I'm having a really fun challenge writing Snape, because I see Snape as not being very talkative. He speaks when he feels like he needs to, and I have to now write. He's got to speak more, or he's just going to disappear. So I'm writing him in scenes that have to do with his arc that force him to be more active with other people. And I saw him as not being very sociable unless he had to be. So I put him in a situation where now he has to interact with all the Death Eaters around him. And the last character I'm having a lot of fun with is the new character that I'm writing.
Ooh. Can we get a hint? Nothing definitive, but a hint?
I'll tell you his name. His name is Luthor Frumentar.
That is so cool.
Write it down. We're going to Google it later.
We'll do our name research. We like names. So the only character we haven't really covered is Remus and his story coming into Wizarding Wars.
Yeah. Well, I'll give you a hint as to how his story starts out. Remus in Snape and the Marauders is getting concerned about what's coming in a few days.
Yep.
So.
Yep.
Yeah, this story doesn't last 3 days. It lasts a few months. So we're gonna have to deal with that.
Yep.
Ooh, yes. I see. Oh, no. Wow. I'm oblivious. A lot of things did not connect for me, and now that you've mentioned it, I finally hit a realization. Wow.
Oh, my precious.
And we see him deal with that. I kind of put him in the only situation he thinks he can be for everyone to be safe, and the Marauders kind of have to get him out of it.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow. I can't believe it. I'm so excited just for this whole series.
Yep. So, Justin, it's going to be 12 episodes, and I believe the release is the end of August?
That's the tentative release.
Tentative? Okay, tentative.
Yeah.
Okay, nothing locked in.
Yeah, nothing locked in. I won't lock anything in until I have the first recording session.
Okay, that's fair. So everybody should keep an eye on your website and your YouTube. And
yeah, keep an eye on the YouTube. We won't release the episodes there. We'll release trailers, and then we'll put a link to the SoundCloud, because we don't have any visuals to go with it. So maybe one day some artists can draw out the episodes, but for now the episodes themselves will be on SoundCloud.
Okay, so I was going to say, where will we find it? So it's going to be SoundCloud.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Okay. I think that wraps up the interview, but Jess and I were wondering if you want to play a game with us quickly. We do loads of games.
If it takes like 5 minutes, because I got to get going soon.
Yep. So
Cool.
I thought the best game. So usually we do marry, wed, kill. I thought we'll throw one more in it. It'll be marry, kill, one night stand, or date. So we've got 4.
Oh, Lord.
Okay.
James, Sirius, Remus, and Severus.
And
I have to do this.
Yeah, you have to say which you do for which one. Let's base it off Severus Snape and the Marauders.
Okay. So you said marry, kill, one night stand, date.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let's see. I'd marry Remus.
Yes, absolutely.
One night. I'd go on a date with Snape. I'd kill Peter. And
No, it was James, Sirius, Remus, and Severus, not Peter.
She's discounting Peter, apparently.
I've only got 4.
James, Sirius, Remus, Severus. Okay, so I'd marry Remus.
Yep.
I'd go on a date with Snape.
Yep.
Yeah, it's hard, isn't it?
I either have to kill or have a one-night stand with Snape.
Wow.
I'd kill Snape, because James would probably be a better time in the sack.
Thank you very much for your time.
No problem.
That was fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Bye.
You're welcome. Bye. Take care.
Bye.
that was our interview with Justin. Look him up on social media and on YouTube. I highly, highly, highly recommend it. So his Broad Stroke Productions on YouTube and all the rest of his social media and website can be found in our description on this episode. And if you're looking for us, we are on Facebook, Tumblr, and what's the other one? Instagram as Witch Weekly Podcast, and on Pinterest and Twitter as Witch Weekly Cast. We can also be reached by email at witchweeklypodcast@gmail.com. That's all for this week.
Bye, nerds.